Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give folks a few more moments to kind of make their way into today's coaching session. But I want to thank everybody for joining us today and look forward to sharing a little bit of how we can potentially overcome relationship risk and become a better leader to our customers. So again, we'll give everybody another minute or so to join our session for today, and then we'll get started. All right, we'll kick things off today. So today's going to be a little bit different coaching session than we traditionally do. Today, we're really going to focus a little bit more about process. And, while a lot of our sessions will focus really around things that we can do specifically within vCIO Toolbox, the real reason we're going out there and engaging with our customers is to build better relationships. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is really how to overcome some of the relationship risk that can brew within our client, our client engagements over time, and how we can move from that operational position that we're often looked at as into a better leadership space. So today we'll be definitely focused on that, but when we do open up the floor for Ask Me Anything at the end of this session, certainly we can talk about anything both around the content that we discussed today or any of the questions that you might have around any of the new features in the tool or the tool itself. But let's talk a little bit first about the customer journey and really what that looks like when we engage with a new client. There's really 5 potential different stages we have within a client and relationship. First one is pretty obvious. We have to acquire the client. So really we can start, setting the tone for the relationship and really showing them the value that goes beyond just our operational capabilities right in the client acquisition process. As we're going through our sales calls, I definitely suggest that we talk about, how we can help their organization grow, how we can help them build their business, and how they can use technology to hopefully get there. The next step in the next step in the relationship is obviously onboarding once acquired. And if you don't have a defined onboarding process, I would really suggest that you do work to develop one, because onboarding really sets the tone for how that relationship's going to work. The easier it is for the customer to come on board, the quicker they understand where to get the information that they need, the faster that you can get engaged with them and start demonstrating value. Then we move into kind of where we sit for the majority of our relationship with the client, servicing. This is where we kind of move into the day-to-day expectations of us providing service to the client and really working with them to meet the needs of their day-to-day operations. This would include, taking tickets, monitoring their systems, building roadmaps and scheduling refreshes, and maybe conducting some of those quarterly business reviews as part of that process. Expansion and exit are really a couple steps that could occur within a client. If we're doing a good job within servicing and we can really show the value of technology to the customer and how it might help with things like security, automation, analytics, we can potentially expand that relationship even in times where our customer is not growing, and really look to provide more win-win outcomes for both sides of the equation, us and the customer, and really move to that next step in the journey as well, which is really optimizing and refining how they operate. The final step, and this is the one we're always looking to avoid, is the exit, right? Our clients may exit our services. They may determine it's time to leave us. And one of the things that we want to do is make sure we're taking steps not to reach that final step and retain that client for as long as possible. So with that being said, I want to move now to, the next step as we really look at what drives this. And one of the things that drives a customer potentially leaving our organization is what I'll call as the curse of the great MSP. For those of you that listen to our podcast, you may already know and heard me talk about this, but the real reality is the more we automate, the more that we do remotely, the less things tend to break over time and the less that we're seen on site. And if we're not really positioning ourselves right within the organization, this can really be an area of vulnerability for us, because oftentimes senior management will look at things and go, hey, things aren't breaking anymore. We never really see these guys. Why are we paying them $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever the amount might be? Maybe we should be doing something a little bit different. So we want to make sure we don't get that dreaded phone call that says, hey, thanks for everything. but we're moving on, right? And where can we be vulnerable here? It's not just, around, hey, where's our services and why are things not happening and not seeing the value there? But this can put us in that pigeonholed area of being a commodity to the customer as well. And when our value gets questioned here and we're looked at as a commodity, obviously if somebody comes in a little bit cheaper, they might move on. So really what we're trying to do is avoid the curse of the great MSP and make sure that we can retain that client for as long as possible. So how do we stop this curse? Well, vulnerability in the organization and being vulnerable in your position in the organization is really in direct correlation to the customer's impression of value. We always talk about value drivers with our customer, but what does that really look like? What is value to a customer? And my argument would often be, we sometimes don't know what value to a customer is because we don't really ask that question. Hey, what's important to you? Where are you trying to take your organization? What's going on within your business that we might not know about that we can potentially help? And if we're not asking those questions at various steps along the way, we can be vulnerable to losing that customer, especially in times of leadership transition as well, especially if we're pigeonholed to a single point of contact. So we're going to discuss a lot today really about how we can potentially stop this curse and really grow the relationship. So really, there's four things there's going to be four areas that we're going to talk about risk. And we're going to start with the 4 no's. First one is the customer has no plan. So if the customer is just, if you're supporting the customer operationally and they're working day to day and we're not working to a forward-thinking plan with the customer, this is definitely an area that can drive vulnerability into the relationship because we're really not showing any increased value. We're really just answering the bell when things occur. If we're not developing strategy with the customer, this is another area of vulnerability. Your customer is probably sitting down and setting a strategy or at least some key objectives every year with their own team. If we're not part of that conversation, we might not know any significant changes that are going to happen to that business. And somebody else from another competing technology company might get their ear and help them with those problems, either they're formally or informally. And next thing you know, we can be out the door. The third thing is not building a good relationship. This is the most dangerous vulnerability point. I learned it very early in my career, and that is if you don't have a relationship that reaches up beyond your point of contact, if everything's working through that office manager at a doctor's office, or you're only working through the admin in a commercial space, you're going to find yourself in a difficult position. You need to form bonds in some way, shape, or form with the CEO, with the CFO, with any key stakeholders within the business that have influence. Because if they don't at least have awareness of what's going on in technology and you don't have that relationship, we're really never going to be looked at as more than a number. And then the final no is no direction. If we're not providing them with leadership direction, that's a gap inside their business. We're already there because they don't have the IT skills to drive that business. For a lot of those small to mid-sized businesses, that also means that they don't have an IT leader in their organization. That role might be held by a CFO who has a little bit of tech savvy or a COO that might know a little bit about technology, but there's really nobody there helping Sherpa them to the next step within their organization. So one of the big risks that you need to work on are these 4s. And if you see these 4 no's, and if you see that within your relationship, you're a little light in any one of these areas, I would set a goal for the next 90 days of really trying to figure out how can I better the position with my clients in one of those no's and move from there. Next thing is that's a risk to your organization is don't let the relationship reside at the help desk. This is something that I learned, again, I'm going to say a lot of lessons I learned early on in my MSP times. But one of the challenges you can run into is your customer gets really cozy with your help desk, right? They call in, they're getting the same technicians, and that becomes the face of your organization. But there's a couple risks that come into play when when your help desk is the face of the organization. One, these are often your lowest paid employees on your team as well. They're junior members. They don't really have business acumen. And now they're kind of holding the keys to the relationship because as good as they are, that's as good as the relationship can be. The second risk of the relationship happening at the help desk is sometimes information can be shared at that level that if we don't know about or get out in front of, can actually damage the relationship further. Maybe they're talking about that our organization might be making layoffs and they're worried. You'd be surprised some of the things that get said between a help desk professional and your customers once they form some bonds. So we got to make sure that as we're running that relationship, that things aren't just happening at the ground floor, help desks, engineers, the people that are serving the customer in that manner, but our executive teams and our leadership roles like the vCIO are staying engaged with those customers and really trying to help them push the needle forward for their businesses. Risk number 3. Oops. Sorry about that. Risk number 3, infrequent contact. If your conversations with your customers only look like the 3 items noted here on the left-hand side of the slide, you're going to be in trouble. If every time you talk to your customer, it's about tickets, escalation, or just when they have a sales need, you're not building a relationship and you're not going to become that trusted advisor that's often talked about within the industry. You know, I used to joke about the fact that I had a problem when I was in my MSP because obviously I had some direct customers. We started as an owner-led sales organization, but then as we built out our sales team, we certainly became a little bit better at sharing that role. And what I saw very quickly was when I went out and did my QBRs to my customers that were considered my direct customers, they looked at me like I had a dollar sign sometimes coming into their office because I'd also been their number 1 sales proponent or, sales initiator in the past. So, it was kind of the question, are you here to help me or are you here to sell something, right? And we've all know that the whole vCIO process should be about stealth selling, happening out of consultative conversations and following a roadmap that kind of dictates for both sides when we're going to do things. So that way, but what I noticed in kind of an opposite spectrum was when I played the role of the vCIO for my sales reps, now I was coming in as a different figure. I was coming in as that authoritative figure. And as a result of that, I was viewed upon as the expert, the consultant, and those dollar signs were kind of taken off the forehead. Now, what I saw is I could improve my relationship with those customers that saw me with the dollar sign on my forehead by just engaging them more during the year, picking up a phone every 3 or 4 weeks if they were a key customer and just saying, hey, how are things going? I saw some tickets come in. I just want to make sure everybody's happy over there, that there was no issues. Or maybe I get, of course, as you get to know people personally there, you're calling them up because they've got a favorite sports team and they just won the championship, or that they like skiing and you're hearing there's a big snow coming in. We all have those small talk conversations, but we use them only when there's something to get engaged with. Sometimes we need to make that call and then get off the line. We don't want to take up a lot of our customers' time with small talk and things that aren't important to them because they have, they're business people as well and their time is valuable. But we have to build relationships, and that relationship building comes through contact that doesn't focus just on their needs. I don't know how many of you've done lunch meetings. I did a lot of work over lunch and dinner with my clients. And one of the things that I was taught early in my career from a senior member of our team was, don't talk about anything work related in the conversation. Really get to know your customers, get to know what's going on. You'll be amazed how at some point in that conversation, the customer will pivot the conversation to work without you having to do so. And they do that because everybody understands their roles at the table. But if you can actually sit there for 45 minutes of an hour meal with them and not jump into work talk, they'll pivot in the last 15 minutes, make sure that they share with you any new developments and get to that next step. Try it sometime. It's amazing to watch when you let them guide the process. And then the 4th risk to our relationship can be purchasing surprises. Why do we build roadmaps? Why do we build budgets and forecasts? Because we want to give CFOs and leaders within the organization more time to budget and plan for big hit events. Customer has 50 desktops and they refresh it every 3rd year. They need to know as early in advance that refresh is upcoming. They may lose track of it. And certainly you don't want to be the person that's got to ask a customer for $50,000 when they don't have it. But it doesn't even have to be something as large as that. Think about warranty renewals, those table stakes of revenue for us, simple, easy breezy refresh dollars. Sometimes we forget about those warranties, and now the customer has a service problem. We need to engage with the vendor, and now we got to have that quick conversation of, oh, by the way, before we can get support from XYZ vendor, we need to refresh or renew our warranties, and that's going to be $4,000 today. Again, most of us serve the small to mid-sized marketplace. They can likely absorb these small hits, but do them enough times, it becomes a problem. So really, we want to make sure that we're engaging the CFO, working with them on planning, understanding where times might be lean, understanding where their best buy times in the year is. Maybe summertime is a tough time for them to capture cash. If that's the case, we probably shouldn't plan our big projects for the summertime. So we really want to engage with whoever leads finance over there to understand how their budget operates, how we can help them in developing a budget from a technology perspective, and then giving them a multi-year view based on both innovation in projects as well as refresh schedules to really better budget for the long term. Any one of those four risks, the four no's, relationship living at the help desk, infrequent contact, or purchasing surprises, can really tarnish a relationship or create that roadblock that prevents the customer from executing quickly with you. So these are some things that we want to do. And now we want to really talk about how we can change the pendulum. And if we are having these types of problems, move to the next step with the customer. So the way that we really do that is by developing an account management plan. And this is a number of different steps that we want to take in order to really deliver for each client. First, we want to do some internal account planning. For those of you that have vCIO Toolbox, you know that we just released our key account management module last week. That's really a place to now organize various account planning tasks we've had in the past. So in there, we've got our customer rater where you can stack rank your clients. We've got business canvas and SWOT tools where you can really analyze the relationship at a higher level and how your customer goes to market. We have the ability to quick engage with our customers and send out surveys to really understand satisfaction and net promoter score without jumping through hoops. And obviously we're monitoring pipelines as well. From that, we can really develop an internal account strategy and say to ourselves, hey, these are the clients we're really going to spend a lot of time with. These are the clients that we think we can elevate. And these are some of our squeaky wheels that if we can do a good job of really improving the relationship and driving new opportunity in those first tiers, we can start looking at firing potentially. So we really want to make sure that, at least annually, ideally quarterly, we're sitting down and kind of reviewing our client stack and seeing where we stand within each account. So we never get too far away and too deep into the risk zone. The next step is building a client strategy. So just like we're building a strategy internally, we need to build a strategy with our customers. If we don't have a good sense of the key objectives they're going after and the obstacles they're facing on the way to whatever they think success is going to be, then we are going to miss innovation opportunity. And then by missing that innovation opportunity, the customer's eventually going to get tired of who we are as a relationship because they're going to say, all these guys do is refresh the same stuff we had before or make minor changes. They're not really helping us move our business. And there's enough competition out there that the CEOs and CFOs, as they attend work functions, are going to run into our competitors who are potentially going to plant different conversations in their ear. So we really need to sit down with our customers and jointly try to identify where they're trying to take their business. And then we can use these to support the business case for some of the projects and services we do. Hey, the reason we're going to do XYZ project is because you said you wanted to do this in our strategy plan, and we can meet them there. Next thing that we want to do is really conduct those regular business reviews. Now, we all have heard quarterly business reviews as being the commonplace, the norm. That's great, but realistically, some customers quarterly would be overwhelming. So we really want to look at our customers and see, who do we want to see quarterly? Who do we want to see twice a year? Now, you may say, I might only have a customer that I want to see once a year in this full format, and that's fine. But find another reason to meet with them every 6 months. You want to make sure you're maintaining that contact in the relationship, and you're never getting too far away from them from an executive to executive level that you lose track of what they're really trying to accomplish as an organization. The next step is really tracking satisfaction and risk. And you've heard me talk about that throughout the presentation today. We got to make sure at the stakeholder level, this is different than what we see at the ticket level, that we're tracking satisfaction and risk levels. Are we meeting the needs of the customer? Will they promote us to other clients out there in the marketplace? If we're seeing negative results coming back as we do a correlated scorecard to whatever we're seeing at the ticket level with our executive teams, let's get out there and get in front of them. Could be as simple as taking the CEO out to lunch. But we need to understand where the satisfaction and risk is breaking down, and don't trust solely your ticket surveys and CSATs. A lot of that information is coming from the rank and file, right? The end users. And while it gives you a good sense of where problems are, in the short term, lets you get out in front of those problems quickly. And certainly you might get good feedback from those that love you. If they're not part of the executive team, that doesn't mean that the value is being seen at the top. So make sure you track satisfaction and risk. And then finally, this will drive you to what we call client nirvana, and that's really being engaged with them, understanding who they are, and being that real trusted advisor for them. So 5 simple steps for customer success. Moving on, what we got to do is look at, as we're conducting our internal review, these are some of the things you want to look for. Are they profitable? Do they embrace IT and execute, or do they drag their feet as you make recommendations? And how noisy are they? Those are 3 factors that can make and break a client relationship. If you got a lot of service and support noise and that client's putting a lot of fatigue on your help desk, you may not lose the client, but you might use some great talent. And as we all know, within this marketplace, that's a difficult thing today. Hiring is becoming more challenging. Good people are harder to find. So if we have a lot of service and support noise, and that's in a single customer or a few back customers are really driving away some of our best people, that's going to be a problem for us long term. If our client doesn't really believe in IT and they're not embracing the ideas we present and executing, we're going to spend a lot of time and a lot of cycles trying to get projects we know have to be done because of obsolescence or unsupported natures, and not get them done because we just can't get the customer there. So we really got to look at that part of it. And of course, profitability is easy. So, I really suggest as you guys are doing your internal reviews and maybe using some of the tools available to you in in vCIO toolbox, one of the things you really want to do is kind of also assess, where does our customer sit within our own stack? We also want to make sure that when we deliver our QBRs, we're not falling into the trap of some of the common QBR challenges. We want to make sure that we're getting the right people in the room. If you can't get your CEOs and CFOs or other strategic business leaders to come to 2 to 4 hours worth of meetings a year to discuss the broad scope of technology, you're already at risk within that client. Or you've been bringing them QBRs that aren't giving them information that helps them do their job, so they're not seeing value in you, which of course brings you back to a risk. So we really want to make sure that we're using an approach to get the right people in the room and get those people to keep coming back from meeting to meeting. Second thing that you want to consider is how to keep the meeting on track. I'm sure we've all fallen victim, I know I have, to a customer bringing up yesterday's ticket or last week's problem in a session and totally derailing the agenda. So we want to make sure when we're getting started in the meeting, we've got a formal agenda, that the customer understands this is a big picture event. It's for us to be a better partner to them by learning more about them. And certainly we'll hit performance metrics, but if we really need to do a deep dive on the ticket or a specific problem, let's table it till the end of the meeting and get that down just to the parties that need to be part of that conversation, or let's schedule another time for it. The final 3 points here really go with deliverables. One of the things that we built vCIO Toolbox for was to bring some consistency to what we were bringing to our clients when we were an MSP. We did PowerPoints, Excels, and reports, and certainly all of you can do that as well. But it never really looked the same for the customer. It was tough for a business person to identify and manage over time. So we want to make sure that we're bringing consistent data points from meeting to meeting. We're filtering out meaningless information. I loved when I used to bring those IT asset reports and, made great thud factor on the table. Look at all this stuff we're doing for you. Reality is customers immediately leaped to their PCs and started asking questions about red on their individual desktop units. It didn't have a lot of value to the bigger picture, so we moved that out of our reporting. We also want to make sure that the reports kind of maintain a happy balance between business speak and technical speak. Most of the people we present to are not IT professionals, but at some point they might have to take the reports we have and give them to auditors or compliance officers for review. So we want to make sure we have the right balance of technical information, but we're translating it to regular person speak. In vCIO Toolbox, that would be your best practice statement within your exceptions report. There, we're showing the customer, hey, even if you don't understand this question and why it's read individually, this is what it's doing to your business, and this is why you need to do this. And that really dovetails into the last one, which is business to technology alignment. One of the biggest mysteries to a lot of small to mid-sized business owners is how is all this supporting my business? For a long time, IT has been viewed by many companies as a cost center, when really reality is it's a profit driver if used appropriately. So we want to make sure that as we're building our roadmaps and showing our products and services to our customers that they should consider, that we have a way to very easily communicate to them the story of the why. And the why really goes back to how does this support those key objectives you defined with us and those challenges in front of you. And if you do a good job of that, you'll really be able to articulate a very good business case. Combine that with a good estimate, you should remove some of the sales friction when you get closer to that project timeline. A couple quick things to close, because we are starting to run up against our time. You want to execute the account plan. You want to make sure with each one of your customers, you're building that strategy, you're identifying risk in their environment, and you're tracking satisfaction. And we've touched upon that throughout the conversation today. When we start talking about your role and what you owe the customer from a leadership standpoint, I really want you to think differently about the role of the vCIO. It's account management, but you are supposed to be that Chief Information Officer for the company that doesn't have IT leadership. So we want to make sure that the services we provide as an organization and as a leader bridge the gap. Over on the operational side, we can help with IT leadership, vendor selection, performance reporting, coaching of their team, coaching of their employees. Over on the strategy side, we're going to help with strategic planning, business to technology alignment, developing roadmaps, and conducting reviews looking for gaps. In between that, of course, we're providing our hands-on services to help support the client. So really the vCIO is spanning the gap of both strategy and operations and serving as an advocate for the customer back into your own organization as well. The mindset of the vCIO really takes on a couple different forms in these relationships as well. We need a resource that's strategy-minded and results-oriented, right? We need to push the needle here, and we need them to be able to understand the business. So you'll see here in this image, what we're really talking about is, hey, if I'm a vCIO, what do I got to be thinking about to match up with my executive leadership? What are the things there? And usually it's strategy, cost, and efficiency, right? When we go down to finance optimization, when I'm just talking to those finance people in the organization, what's the big issue there? Well, generally there, they want to know what their budgets are going to be and how they can do more with less, right? So, can they reduce through automation, maybe human capital spend, but more importantly, where are those big inflection points within my budgets? Obviously, we need to be bringing forth security best practices to the customer. Cyber threats are real. Customers are finally starting to understand that by just their cyber liability premiums, if nothing else. And we can really help solidify that for the customer. And then ultimately, if you're not getting in tune with the day-to-day operations of your business, what their teams do, what key stakeholders are leading pivotal teams in their delivery process, you're going to miss a lot of opportunity to improve or at least show value by automation within existing systems within their organization. So try to understand a little bit about their business operations. Do they manufacture a product? Is there a timeline for getting that done? Is there something that can be saved if you can get it out the door 30 seconds faster? And then finally, build it's all really a repeatable process. That goes without saying. For those of you that are part of vCIO Toolbox, a lot of what I spoke about today are steps that you can take within the platform in order to really understand this process. But if you don't have a process or you're not using vCIO Toolbox, a lot of what I shared with you today, again, was kind of leadership, soft skills, and you can certainly engage with your customer and improve standing, no matter what you're using for a tool today. So with that, that really brings us to the end of the presentation side of things. As I mentioned earlier, I'll open up the floor now for Q&A. This is an Ask Me Anything session, so feel free to ask things that are outside the span of what we discussed today. For those that join late, we will be putting this video inside the application under our university settings. You'll see in there that there's a Tuesday coaching option, and you will see all of our previous coaching events there for you to watch on demand as well. If you do have any questions, pop them into the Q&A. That's the easiest place for me to see them, but certainly if you want to drop anything into chat, feel free. And I'm going to hold the floor open for another couple minutes. While I'm holding the floor open for people to look at Q&A, if you haven't explored key account management yet, I suggest jumping into your platform, take a look at that module, take a look under last Tuesday's coaching, and it'll really give you some guidance on what's available to you in there. And certainly send me any questions that you have or attend one of our next coaching sessions to discuss more. We'll be continuing to bring tools into that module to help you automate communications with your customers. And certainly if you haven't set up any of your Microsoft integrations, I do suggest getting that in so you can bring in secure score and licensing into the dashboards for your clients. Soon we'll be releasing some additional new features within the system, so stay tuned on that as well. So with that said, it looks like I got a quiet bunch today. Nobody really asking any questions in the Q&A area. So I'm going to thank everybody for attending today. Remember, we do this coaching every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon in Pacific time. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks a lot and have a great day.